I used to stand in line rehearsing a defense speech for a $7 latte, and I thought that guilt meant I was budgeting. It didn't. It was making me poorer. It usually happened around 2 p.m. on a Tuesday. I'd be standing in line at the local cafe beside my work, looking at the menu board, and I'd start rehearsing. Not for anyone real, for an invisible jury. I worked late last night, I'd tell them. I packed my lunch 3 days in a row. I deserve this. By the time I got to the register, I wasn't just buying coffee. I was buying a defense case. The mental trial lasted longer than the drink. And the worst part wasn't the price. The worst part was that I thought this anxiety meant I was good with money. I thought feeling bad about spending was the same thing as being responsible. But when I looked at my actual bank account at the end of the month, the numbers didn't change. The guilt wasn't saving me a dime, it was just making me tired. The shift happened when I saw the pattern. I was starving myself of small, visible joys, like the coffee, my favorite mid-afternoon latte, because they were easy to judge. But because I felt restricted all week, I would overspend later to compensate. I'd skip the latte to feel virtuous, then spend $60 on takeout Friday night because I felt deprived. So I made one rule. I stopped apologizing for the small things so I could actually see the big things. The goal wasn't to spend more. It was to remove the emotional burden from the transaction. If I buy the coffee, I buy the coffee. No story, no trial. What surprised me wasn't that the coffee tasted better, it was how much clearer my other spending became once the guilt was gone. The first place this showed up, Tuesday, 6:15 p.m., standing in the produce aisle at my favorite grocery store on my way home. I used to perform frugality here. I'd buy the raw ingredients for complex meals, dried black beans, bulk rice, vegetables that needed an hour of prep, because that's what a good saver does. Then Tuesday would hit, I'd be exhausted, and I'd order delivery because I couldn't face the cooking. I'd stare at that bag of dried beans like it was a personal accusation. When I dropped the guilt, I started buying the lazy groceries, pre-chopped vegetables, jarred sauce, the slightly more expensive options that actually matched my life. The receipt was $15 higher, but the $60 delivery charge disappeared. I stopped paying the aspiration tax and started paying for my reality. It changed how I treated Saturday afternoons. Before, the weekend felt like a rescue mission. I'd spent 5 days telling myself big no on everything, so Saturday became a big yes. I'd find myself standing in Target's fluorescent lighting around 2 p.m., feeling the relief flood my chest as I put a $25 candle in the cart. I didn't even like the scent. Why would I like the Clean Day soy candle scent? I just needed to feel the permission. Once I allowed the daily coffee without the guilt trip, the weekend desperation vanished. I didn't need to treat myself because I hadn't been punishing myself. The impulse purchases dropped to near zero because the pressure valve was already open. This was the quietest change, but the biggest number. For years, I avoided looking closely at my monthly subscriptions. Deep down, I felt so guilty about my daily spending habits that I didn't want to see more proof of waste. The shame acted like a fog. I knew the charges were there, but I couldn't face them. Wednesday morning, 9:42 a.m., coffee actually in hand, I opened the banking app. For the first time, I wasn't bracing for impact. I scrolled through the list, 3 streaming services I hadn't opened in months, a meditation app I'd used twice, a premium cloud storage tier for a project that ended last year. I tapped cancel on each, watched the confirmation screens appear, did the math in my head, $47 a month, over $564 a year. That 10-minute audit saved me more than skipping a year of coffees. But I couldn't see it before because I was too busy performing goodness to practice it. Even talking about money with my partner got easier. We used to have this recurring tension around splitting dinner bills. I'd insisted on paying half, always, even when he offered to cover it. I thought accepting generosity meant I was bad with money. Sunday night, 2 weeks after the shift, we were at that small Italian place he loves. I'm not a big fan of Italian, ordered my favorite chicken pesto pappardelle. When the check came, he offered to get it. I felt the old resistance flare up, the need to prove I was responsible. But I remembered the coffee doesn't need a defense, and neither do I. I said yes. The bill was $46. The relief of not tracking, not scoring, not performing, that was the real transaction. Buying the coffee didn't make me a millionaire. That's not the point. But the math did change. My savings rate actually went up, not down. When you stop spending energy on performing goodness, you can spend that energy on actual decisions. The subscription audit only happened because I wasn't afraid of my own bank account anymore. What got easier wasn't the money. It was the relationship to it. I still have to budget. I still say no to big purchases. I still check my balance. But I no longer confuse anxiety with responsibility. I no longer think that suffering is the same as saving. The friction of the daily transaction is gone. I tap the card, I take the cup, and I enjoy it. And for the first time in years, it just tastes like coffee. What's your coffee? Let me know in the comments.